Hey there, macro folks. This is Mr. Hooker, and this will be video 2 of chapter 3. This one is all about supply and equilibrium. So here we go. Let's get to it. So, what is supply? It is a lot like demand, just the firm side. Here it is, the ability and willingness to produce or sell. That was buy on the demand side, a specific quantity of a good or service at alternative prices, ceteris paribus. So, ability and willingness. That is typically not a problem for a firm. Firms get in business to maximize profit. Where it becomes a problem is when you add ability and willingness to specific quantity. If you are a startup and you are operating out of grandma's garage, yeah, you can produce. You can produce 50, you can produce 500, but can you produce 5,000? That is the problem. You have the ability, you have the willingness, and you can produce a certain lot. But once we get up to big numbers, 5,000, 50,000, you know, 150,000, can you produce those? And that is the issue. This ability and willingness to produce or sell a specific quantity um, of that good or service at alternative prices. Once again, that BS clause, which asks the question, are you willing to sell this at market price? We did cars in demand. We'll do cars for supply. Is Ford, really going to sell that Fusion or that Focus, excuse me, not the Fusion, that Focus at market price? Or they're going to ask to sell that thing at $100,000? Trust me, a Focus ain't worth $100,000. It's just not $100,000 car. So that's the question. And so, they've got to get the market price. And once they get the market price, everything else will work itself out. You can't buy a car for 500. They can't sell a car. They can't sell a Focus for 100 grand. At some point, you got to get both of y'all to market, both people to market price. Ceteris paribus, all things remaining equal. Once again, we're talking about price and quantity, not all this other stuff that is out there in the ether. Okay. So let's get on. So supply is the schedule or curve that shows the various amounts of a product that producers are willing and able to make available for sale at each of a series of possible prices during that specified period of time. There's the supply schedule, which is your table, or the supply curve, which is your graph. The amount producers are willing and able to sell at the given price, and your individual supply and your market supply, which is your horizontal summing of your individual supplies. Your law of supply, other things being equal, as the prices go up, the quantity supplied goes up, and as the price goes down, the quantity supplied goes down. In other words, there's a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Okay? Why? Price is an incentive to producers. If they see other people making profit, they're like, I like profit. Maybe I will do what they are doing. And if they're already in there, they're like, hey, maybe we ought to expand. And at some point, costs will rise. If you try to go 24/7, your costs will go vertical. If you get into micro, that's a chapter 9 thing, but it's just a basic vertical kind of thing. My take on this is pretty simple. Firms are greedy. It's not a bad thing. Firms are greedy in the pursuit of what we call normal profits. And if they didn't believe they could make money selling you a good, they wouldn't make it. You wouldn't have it. And think of it this way: all the stuff that you bought was basically came out of the idea that a firm thought they could make money selling it to somebody, and you happen to be that somebody. If they didn't think they could have made that money, they never would have made it. You never would have bought it. And you'd have had to make a whole lot of stuff on your own. So, how good are you at making all that stuff? Supply of gasoline this time, it's supply. So at $5, firms are willing to supply 60 units, or 60 gallons. $4.50, $3.35, $2.20 at $1 only 5. This works just like it did for demand. We're going to go back to the whiteboard really quick. and look at that. I'm only going to do one version of it, but we're going to do that. All right, here we go. So quantity, price, we got an upward sloping line. Here we go, get off of that. And that is our supply curve. We're going to have an A and a B. A is Q1, P1, and B is Q2, P2. Once again, this happens first, that happens second. So just like it was for demand, price goes up first, and because price goes up, quantity goes up. So price goes up, and firms look at it and go, "Oh, you mean that y'all are charging more? Price has gone up, so we could, we can sell more, and so we're going to produce more and sell more at this new higher price and make more profit. So we're going to make more profit. Thank you. Have a nice day." So A to B, just like it was for demand, is a change in quantity supplied caused by a change in price. Oops. Called a movement of the curve. So it's the same as it was for demand. Everything's the same. Nothing has really changed. If you had it with a downward sloping curve, you've got the same thing for an upward sloping curve. It is all basically the same stuff. All right. And for an increase in supply, a shift, if you shift to the right, once again, now this is where people get confused because the shift to the right this time is down, not up. But I told you to ignore up and down. Right, left is all that matters. So shift to the right is an increase in supply, S1 to S2. A shift to the left, S1 to S3, is a decrease in supply. That is left. So anything right is an increase. Anything left is a decrease. Remember that. All right. Once again, shift is caused by determinants in supply, change in the determinants of supply. There are 6 of those for supply. There were 5 for demand, 6 for supply. Here we go. A change in resource prices. These are the resources used in production. So if you think of those chairs, desks used in school, and it doesn't matter really where you go to school, high school, college, whatever, they are all pretty much the same, I'll be honest. So they're made out of basically cheap, hard plastic, cheap metal, screws, and labor, right? So if the price of hard plastic goes up, what happens to the supply of chairs or desks? The supply would go down. What happens if the price of plastic goes down? In an economics class, the supply of chairs would go up. Chairs or desks would go up. In the real world, it's an it depends answer. It depends. Now, can we buy more of the other resources and make one more chair? Um, I don't know. Really depends. Change in technology always increases supply. If it's one of those things. So like if the technology makes us better off, we will use it. It will increase supply. If it does not make us better off, we will be right where we are, and it will never decrease supply. Let's put it that way. So new technology never decreases supply. It will only ever increase supply, because if it doesn't make us better off, we will just stay where we are. The most recent version I can think of that did not make us better off was Windows Vista. It was terrible. So we just like stayed where we were and waited for Windows 7. Change in taxes or subsidies. Um, Change in taxes, if the government puts a new tax on a good or service, so let's say they increase the taxes for coffee. If they increase the tax for coffee, then what happens is and they increase that tax and put it on producers. Producers will shift as much of that as they can to producers, but it also decreases the supply of coffee. If a local government, and this subsidies happen most often at local and state levels, but if a local or state government subsidizes production or subsidizes some kind of something subsidy, it's usually a subsidy for building a plant or production, then basically that will increase supply. Change in price of other goods. This is substitutes in production, is what that is. So if you can make one thing or another and they are relatively simple to switch out, if the price of the other good goes up, you're making one good and the price of the other good that you could make goes up and it becomes more profitable to make, you would automatically just switch to the more profitable good and start making it so that you could make more profit. You don't stay in the less profitable good. You move to the more profitable good. Always. That is just basic economics. People seek maximum profit, and one of the ways you do that is you use your resources to make the most profitable good. Change in producer expectations is a lot like the one for consumer expectations, except they care not about your future income. They care about future price only. So future price, and it's exactly opposite how you care about future price. If they believe that future price is going up, then they will decrease supply now and wait for the higher future price. They are looking for the highest price possible. They will increase supply at what they believe to be higher future price. If they believe the future price is going down, they will increase supply now and for what they believe is to be the higher current price. If there are only a few sellers, this can tend to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. A large number of sellers, everybody's just got mixed signals and everything works out. Changing the number of sellers is just like number of buyers, but you want a lot of sellers because that provides you with a better price and a better product. 100 sellers is better than one. 1,000's better than 100. 10,000's better than 1,000. 100,000's better than 10,000. A million's better than 100,000. The more sellers you have, the better quality product you have, and the lower the price. So we as consumers want as many sellers in a market as possible. That is just how that works for us. And there that is in table format. I will put this movie in the class for you. Equilibrium is where the demand curve and the supply curve intersect. This is not necessarily a happy place. It is just what we call a market clearing place. Households or consumers would still like to buy at a lower price. Firms would still like to sell at a higher price. It is just that this is the price where households are willing to buy everything that firms are willing to sell at that price. So you end up with an equilibrium price and an equilibrium quantity. At the equilibrium price, there is no surplus, there is no shortage. At prices above equilibrium, you have surpluses. At prices below equilibrium, you have shortages. At prices above equilibrium, supply is greater than demand. surplus. At prices below equilibrium, demand is greater than supply, shortage. So this is what we mean by the rationing function of prices. If there is no government control of price and prices are left to their own, what ends up happening is there will always be pressure toward equilibrium. So it's ugly, it takes a while, but it ends up happening, and there will always be that pressure toward equilibrium because firms will see that there's a surplus and they'll be like, okay, we'll put this stuff on sale and we'll move the price down. And if they see that there's a shortage and people are putting their good on the black market, they'll be like, okay, we need to move our price up, and they'll move the price up. And if they see a surplus, they'll move it down. And you just sort of realize, and you just sort of keep moving up and down until you find it. And this will eventually get us to an efficient allocation of goods and services. And that is what we're looking for. So, when we say efficient allocation, most often when you hear somebody say that they are efficiency driven or they're trying to be efficient, they mean productive efficiency. There is one market structure in all of the four market structures that is allocatively efficient. We'll talk about that a little bit here, but being productively efficient, that is what people mean when they talk about it the most. It is producing goods in the least costly way, using the best technology and using the right mix of resources. So using the least costly way to produce goods, and the best technology available, for the most part. Allocative efficiency is a whole different beast, right? So allocative efficiency means you are producing goods with the wishes of society. So if we're talking about wagons, right? And society wants 1,000 red wagons. No blue wagons, no green wagons, no yellow wagons, just 1,000 red wagons. Then the firms produce exactly 1,000 red wagons. No blue wagons, no green wagons, no yellow wagons, just 1,000 red wagons. Then they are being allocatively efficient. There are no wasted resources, and they have produced the combination of goods most highly valued by society, only the things that society wants. This is hard to do. Just going to point that out because everybody in their rush for profit tends to overproduce or underproduce in trying to minimize costs. Either by minimizing costs, you underproduce, or you overproduce in the rush for profit. So those are the two things that end up happening. So equilibrium, price and quantity, how that works out for us. What we end up with is if you are, in this case, we're back to gas. And at $4, we've got a 6,000 gallon surplus. At $2, we got a 7,000 gallon shortage. So let's say we start at $4. The firms realize they've got a surplus. They start lowering the price. They put it at $3.50. They go to $3, but they still have a surplus because they started at $4. And so they don't realize that $3 is the equilibrium price. So they go down to $2.50. Maybe they go down to $2. And then they've got a shortage. Oh my gosh. And so all of a sudden they realize they've got a shortage. People are selling gas on the black market. This is a terrible thing. And so they raise the price $2.50, $3, $3.50. They know not to go to $4 again. And then they go back down to $3 when they realize that they still have a surplus at $3.50. Not as bad as at $4, but they have a surplus at $3.50. They go to $3 and maybe back down to $2.50. But then they would come back to $3 and bam, there you are. At that point, you just have to hope that something hasn't shifted a curve. One of the determinants of demand and supply hasn't shifted the curve and you have a new equilibrium. It's one of those, it's like the old joke. By the time I figured out the answer to the question, they changed all the questions, right? So it's kind of like that joke, but not complete. Well, it pretty much is. It's just basically like that. Rationing function of prices, the ability of competitive forces of demand and supply to establish the prices which selling and buying decisions are consistent. So that is the idea of that moving up and down with, with no problem. If you start at surplus, move down, you're in a shortage, and then you come to equilibrium eventually. The Supply and Dance Man movie I will put in the class for you. All right, so we'll do all the shifts and everything like that in the next video. So video 3, we will do that. All right, see you there.